Welcome to the Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, produced by the Caribbean Leadership Program under the Caribbean Center for Development Administration, CARICAD, where we provide a number of leadership development interventions tailored for the Caribbean context in support of public sector transformation as well as regional development. In this Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, we will be discussing a range of leadership issues within the public sector context which impact our national and regional development in the Caribbean.
The Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, where Caribbean leaders discuss Caribbean leadership. Here's your host, Dr. Lloyd Parks.
We are looking at the issue of leadership resilience, health and wellness, and exploring why is that now an issue that we are focused on in our Caribbean region. We are delighted today to have as our special guest none other than Mrs. Denise Dumas-Koylass. Denise Dumas-Koylass is a clinical psychologist by training. She is a Trini to the bone from the lovely Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and she practices in North, Central, and South Trinidad. She also works as a consultant in the area of institutional strengthening with the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services in Trinidad. She has a wealth of experience. She has served as a professional in various capacities for over 28 years, particularly in the public service in the government of Trinidad and Tobago, where she spent a lot of her years in the personnel department in the area of HR. She is a trainer as well. She works along with the Caribbean Leadership Program as one of our leadership facilitators. And probably best of all, she is an alumni of our Caribbean Leadership Development Program, where she was a part of our Cohort 4, Positively Explosive, C4 as they call themselves. And so we are delighted to have Mrs. Dumas-Koylass with us, sharing and exploring this topic of resilience and wellness and health and how it relates to leadership. Denise, thank you for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me.
Denise, start off by sharing a little bit about your own personal journey into the field of the public sector and how you got into clinical psychology.
Well, I've always been a people person, interested in understanding others and trying to provide support. So I pursued a first degree in what was then referred to as personnel management and industrial relations. And after graduating, I began working as an HR officer in the private sector, and then later became a training officer in the Central Training Unit of the Public Service of Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
I pursued postgraduate studies in human resource management and became a human resource advisor in the Office of the Chief Personnel Officer, and then rose up the ranks to become a leader in the public service. My interest in clinical psychology developed out of the work we were doing at the CPO's office to establish an employee assistance program, or EAP, in the public service, as well as from my volunteer work as a counselor with an NGO called the Alpes Center.
Denise, this is a conversation we have had over and over again, the two of us. And my personal journey as a leader, particularly as I rose up the ranks of leadership myself in the government of Jamaica, was that the higher up I went, the harder it seemed to be resilient as a leader, that I found that my stress levels went up. It affected my physical health and quite honestly, at times, my emotional well-being. Tell us, why is resilience and wellness, why has it become such an important issue for us to look at in terms of leadership performance and development?
Today's working environment is very dynamic and increasingly demanding. The various stakeholders expect more value from less resources.
Oh, yes.
Clients are demanding an increasingly improved level of service despite the many challenges that we face. In addition, regulatory governance and accountability are intensifying. So as a result, today's leaders need to be able to cope even more effectively with the stresses that come every day. Otherwise, they may become overwhelmed and the mental and physical health could suffer. And this is why resilience and wellness have become important factors in the context of leadership development and performance. Just in terms of definitions, wellness really refers to that active process of making healthy choices designed to achieve physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being. And resilience refers to our ability to bounce back from challenges or to persevere despite setbacks. Essentially, resilience determines how well we can prevent stressors, whether work-related or personal, from interfering with our health and personal and professional effectiveness.
What do you see as some of the specific challenges we face in this area of wellness and resilience in the Caribbean context?
Well, we as Caribbean leaders need to be particularly creative and innovative in our approaches to solving the problems that we face in our region.
Oh yes, especially as you talk about the fiscal constraints and the greater demand.
Yes, exactly. However, when presented with these challenges, if we or the persons we work with have lower resilience to stress, there will be a tendency to fixate on negative possibilities. And this has a tendency to depress creativity and problem-solving abilities. In addition, in the Caribbean, we tend to be particularly fixated on academic performance and intelligence levels, rather than promoting the adoption of a more holistic approach to achieving well-being. However, interestingly, research indicates that resilience, more so than intelligence, is key to achieving personal and professional success. So I believe we in the Caribbean need to strive to build awareness of the importance of attaining wellness and building resilience levels among our people.
That's a very interesting point that you have made. We are going to just take a short break, and after we resume, I want you just to explore a little bit about the importance of resilience over other factors for leadership performance. We will be right back.
The Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, where Caribbean leaders discuss Caribbean leadership.
Across Caribbean public services, there is great demand for transformational leadership to create an environment that fosters innovation in public service delivery. But how do you know if your organization has this enabling environment? Grounded in research, the Caribbean Leadership Project has developed an enabling environment assessment. This provides a wide range of strategies and actions to help take public sector organizations and regional institutions to a higher level in enabling transformational leaders. To find out how you can use this assessment to foster and inspire purpose-driven leadership, to build leadership capacity for action, encourage collaboration, and support the achievement of results, visit us at www.clptoolkit.org and contact us at info@caribbeanleadership.org. Let us help your organization learn, network, succeed.
The Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, where Caribbean leaders discuss Caribbean leadership.
Welcome back to the Caribbean Leadership Radio Series. This episode, we are looking at the issue of resilience and wellness as a critical leadership issue for leaders in the Caribbean. And we have with us Mrs. Denise Dumas-Koylass, clinical psychologist from Trinidad. And just before the break, Denise, you were sharing with us that research has shown that resilience is an even more critical factor to leadership performance as against intelligence. Can you expand on that point a little bit for us?
Sure. What the research is showing is that a significant proportion of stress can be attributed to our perceptions of events and how we process what we're experiencing. So it's important for us to examine how we think, and how we respond to events as compared to other persons. So, for example, I had a CPO a former CPO who was highly resilient to stress, and we always admired that. And she had this saying, she would always say when faced with a problem, this too shall pass.
Yes.
And then she would just work with the team to brainstorm ideas and to generate solutions to treat with the issue. She never allowed herself to be overwhelmed. And so that is a critical factor.
What you're saying is very crucial for us here in the region. I recall, and you would too, in September of 2017, that our region faced some very serious hurricanes. And the impact of that really called up on leaders at every level, but particularly in the public sector, to respond to the disasters caused by the hurricanes, that they had to exercise resilience. And a lot of focus attention was placed on the psychological impact of disasters and the need to build up personal resilience. What recommendations do you have for leaders who find themselves facing challenges? It might not be quite as severe as a hurricane, but they're feeling overwhelmed, stressed out. They don't know where to begin. What advice you have for that person?
Well, I would say it's so important to build a support team who can help you to analyze the issue, reframe the problem, and generate possible solutions. Don't try to handle difficult problems alone. Build a network of advisors, and for example, that's something that we have across the region through the CLP Alumni, the network. Also adopt healthy physical habits for stress relief, getting a good night's sleep, eating a healthy diet, getting regular exercise can put us in a better position to handle the stress that comes into our life. Use a range of coping strategies, practice slow and deep breathing, getting more oxygen into our body and releasing physical tension are two ways that breathing exercises can benefit us. Even trying something called progressive muscle relaxation, where you tense and release all of your muscle groups.
Okay.
And your body to feel more relaxed afterwards. Take a mental break when feeling stress. So, for example, what we teach our clients is to visualize. Go to what we call our happy place to restore peace of mind. So, for example, if I'm feeling stressed, I imagine myself relaxing at my favorite beach. And then reflect and examine your locus of control. And the term locus of control refers to whether you feel your life is controlled by you or by forces outside yourself. So those with an internal locus of control feel that they have choice in their lives and control over circumstances.
Yes.
Conversely, those with an external locus of control feel that they're more at the mercy of external events. And as I'm sure you've guessed, those with a more internal locus of control tend to feel happier and less stressed. And they also enjoy better health because they experience less of that damaging chronic stress that can come from feeling powerless. And of course, we have to learn to think positively. And this really may require a mental shift, which is essentially a change in our thinking habits. So some individuals learn to draw more on the strength of their higher power. They may memorize scriptures like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Some persons invest in themselves and hire a life coach. There are times when, we really need to speak to a mental health professional to help us to cope more effectively. And
we find that in the region, so many persons, when you say speak to a mental health professional, there's a stigma. They think, oh, you're crazy. And it's amazing, we think of the other physical health checks that we do. We test our blood sugar level and other things, but not our mental health level.
No, and we have to overcome that stigma because really and truly our brain is our CPU, and we need to take care of our brain. We need to take care of our mind as well. And there are times when we just need to kind of take a break and talk to a professional and, examine our thoughts, examine our emotions, our feelings, and kind of carve a way forward.
Yes.
So Really and truly, that's so important.
So it's really about that intentionality. We have to be very deliberate about protecting our level of resilience and our level of wellness. You participated in our leadership development program, as I said earlier when I was introducing you. Tell us a bit about how that program assisted you in your own ability to become a more resilient leader.
Well, I gained so much from attending the CLP's leadership development program. I developed knowledge and skills that helped me to network and brainstorm ideas and possible solutions to problems with my peers, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but across the Caribbean. I became a more resilient leader because I learned to accept that problems will arise and that if I build a supportive team in my workplace, ask questions in a non-judgmental way, listen actively, use problem-solving approaches, reach out to my peers, that my colleagues and I can work together to find a range of possible solutions to the issues that we face. Essentially, Loy, I learned that I'm not alone and that I can reach out for help.
Can you think of any specific leadership tools that you were taught that you think was one of those tricks of the trade, as it were, to help you with your resilience?
I think really 110% listening, truly suspending my judgment, listening to actively to my colleagues, to my direct reports, to the stakeholders. I found that was so critical. Of course, stakeholder mapping and identifying who the stakeholders are and really giving them an opportunity to input and to share with me as an individual leader and with my organization their perspective, needs, and how best we can meet those needs. Really becoming more citizen-centered as a leader of an organization, that was so critical.
Great. Thank you so much. We are going to take our final break and we will resume our discussion right after this.
The Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, where Caribbean leaders discuss Caribbean leadership.
Does your organization have leaders with the self-awareness and confidence to lead effectively? Can they develop high-performing teams? Can they work effectively with multiple stakeholders? And are they equipped to navigate change and complexity? For these and other leadership challenges, the Caribbean Leadership Program offers a suite of virtual, face-to-face and customized interventions to meet your needs. Our 5-day workshop on leading change and transition will provide senior executives with the mindset shift and tools to successfully lead change initiatives. Our transformational leadership development program is ideal for preparing high-potential leaders for succession to executive roles. And our mid-level leadership development program is perfect for those leading from the middle. For details on these and other offerings, visit our website at www.caribbeanleadership.org. Join us to learn, network, succeed.
The Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, where Caribbean leaders discuss Caribbean leadership.
Welcome back to the Caribbean Leadership Radio Series, where we are looking at the issue of leadership resilience and wellness. And we have with us clinical psychologist from Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Denise Dumas-Koylass. We are continuing this very, very insightful discussion. Resilience and wellness are not only impacting persons at a personal level. It has become a major policy challenge that leaders have to address. And I note that post-Hurricane Maria and those other hurricanes in the Caribbean, that the Caribbean Development Bank has actually made a lot of grant funding available to address this very issue of building resilience at the psychological, organizational levels. It has become a policy issue that leaders have to address. Denise, can you share with us your perspectives on what are the nuances of these policy issues and how might these be addressed?
Well, as I indicated earlier, research indicates that resilience predicts success more accurately than intelligence, and that it also boosts employee health and performance. So as a result, it's important for organizations to establish employee assistance programs or EAPs that have wellness and resilience building components. You know, we need to develop policies, we need to develop procedures that really guide the establishment of these EAPs in our organizations. And the research shows that actually productivity rises, performance improves when employees who are experiencing stress can access help from the EAP. Apart from that, we also need to look at our human resource development policies, because we really need to build coaching cultures in our organizations. You know, rather than a culture of blame or kind of a sink or swim approach to managing persons, we really need to have coaches available, whether internal or external, and we need to accept that we all need a hand from time to time, and that this builds trust, stronger teams, and of course stronger organizations.
I hear what you're saying, and I know that you were involved in setting up such an employee assistance program in the government of Trinidad. But I can hear somebody listening. There might be a counselor within an organization, there might be an HR practitioner in an organization, and they will say, how do I convince my CEO, my head of organization, to make that investment? Because very often people look at the bottom line, they look at other priorities. Things like wellness and resilience seem so quote unquote touchy-feely and not as concrete as a budget. So how do you persuade persons who don't fully understand the importance of having these kinds of policies and systems in place to convince them to commit resources and time and other things to make it a reality?
Well, there's so much research available, so you can prepare position papers outlining the benefits versus the costs of establishing an employee assistance program. What we did through the use of a consultant, we actually established a baseline in terms of productivity levels, absenteeism, and so on. Levels of sick leave taken, and then we took a kind of a phase approach to implementing the EAP, and where we were able to kind of monitor whether absenteeism was decreasing, productivity rising, and so on. So it's very important to really provide evidence and show that the benefits of establishing an EAP far outweigh the costs. There's a lot of data that we can collect, and our procedures manual indicates what data to collect and how to collect this data. And so really and truly, on the basis of the evidence, you can make a case for the introduction of the EAP.
Both of us are HR practitioners at heart, and I think that so often we just put forward ideas because it's good. And it's not enough that an idea is good. It also has to be strategic, and it has to be presented as such with data and facts and monitoring and evaluation systems to prove that these things are actually adding value. The last question that we have for you then is, what recommendations do you have for the person who is rising up the ranks of leadership, and how do they go about developing a personal strategy for making sure that they have the resilience level that they need? How do we do that at the policy level?
There are a range of strategies that we can use as individuals. As I said, we really need to invest in our health. We need to examine ourselves in terms of sleep patterns, our diet, our exercise, and so on, because adopting healthy physical habits will assist us to cope more effectively. We need to build that support team, as I said. Don't try to handle problems on your own, Develop a team in your unit or your section.
And I would even add that sometimes that support system doesn't necessarily have to be confined to your immediate workspace. It can be a support unit that is outside, but you know that these are people you can rely on to give you advice, to brainstorm, to be objective, but also be supportive.
That is it. And so, for example, with us, we have the network of graduates, alumni of the CLP across the Caribbean who we reach out to get ideas, and we have our own local chapter. I'm actually the secretary/treasurer of our local chapter, and we are trying to meet regularly and to come up with ideas to help other leaders across the public service. But as I said, we really have to examine ourselves, take time to reflect, and we need to learn how to think more positively. And as I said, some of us we're born a little less resilient to stress due to childhood factors, a range of issues. And it really is helpful if you find that, you're feeling overwhelmed, to speak to a professional, to get the support that you need. There is help available.
And at the policy level?
And at the policy level, we need to establish employee assistance programs that incorporate wellness and resilience training in them. As I said, in the public service of Trinidad and Tobago, we have a policy on the employee assistance program that guides how it should be managed and so on. And we also have a procedures manual to guide the process. So we really need to provide the support that our leaders and our non-managerial staff need, because stressors will come either in, personal issues or workplace-related stressors will come, and we need to provide the support that our leaders and our direct reports need from time to time.
Thank you so much. And if you are listening and you are thinking about how you can go about establishing an employee assistance program, please do get in touch with us. We have a number of persons in our network who are directly responsible for managing some very world-class employee assistance programs. So help is out there. Just reach out to us and we'll connect you to those persons. Denise Dumas-Koylass, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your insight and for your generosity in sharing with us about leadership, resilience, and wellness.
Oh, you're most welcome, Loy. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share.
You've been listening to the Caribbean Leadership Radio Series. Please check with this station for other episodes in our series. To learn more about the Caribbean Leadership Program, please visit our website at www.caribbeanleadership.org. Thanks for joining us.